The river ran high beneath Riverrun's walls, swollen with cold rain and early snowmelt from distant hills, so that its voice was never silent. It rushed past stone and reed like a thing pursued, and in that restless sound Robb Stark heard the shape of his war, always moving, always hunted, never permitted to settle. They brought the envoy in at dusk, when the hall's torches had been lit and the hearth gave off more smoke than warmth. The man walked with the careful pride of one who knew he was guarded by parchment more than steel. His crimson cloak was travel-splattered, the lion on his breast dulled by road dust, but his boots had been cleaned before he stepped onto Tully stone. That small courtesy was a blade, too, a reminder that Tywin Lannister could afford such niceties even now. Robb did not rise. Gray wind lay at his feet like a shadow given teeth, his yellow eyes fixed on the stranger, his ears pricked to every scrape of leather and clink of mail. The direwolf's lip lifted when the envoy approached, and a soft growl ran through the hall like a threat spoken in a language older than crowns. "Your Grace," the man said, and there was no mockery in it. Only the faintest stress on the title, as if he tested how it felt in his mouth. "I come under the king's peace." "The king's peace?" Great John Umber boomed from the benches, a laugh that had no humor and too much thirst. "Tell Joffrey to choke on it." A dozen hands tightened on sword hilts. Robb lifted 2 fingers. The movement was small. It quieted them as surely as a shout. He kept his gaze on the envoy's face, not the lion on his cloak, not the men at his back. "You have my leave to speak," Robb said. The envoy bowed, and for an instant Robb imagined his father in this place. Eddard Stark standing straight as a spear, hearing lies delivered with smooth tongues. His father had known how to face such men without flinching. Robb wondered if he did. The envoy drew out a parchment sealed in red wax, pressed with the lion and the hand's chain. He held it high enough that all could see the seal, as if the sight alone might compel obedience. When he stepped forward to offer it, gray wind rose in a single fluid motion, towering, silent, the size of a small pony. The envoy froze. His hand trembled, and the parchment quivered like a leaf. "Easy," Robb murmured, and gray wind settled again, slow as a tide receding, though his eyes never left the stranger. The parchment passed into Robb's hand. It was heavy with the weight of southern words. "From Lord Tywin of House Lannister," Robb said, reading the first line aloud, his voice even. "Hand of the King, Warden of the West." Roose Bolton's pale eyes did not blink. Brynden Tully's mouth tightened as if he tasted bile. Catelyn's fingers moved on the edge of the table, a small, unconscious prayer. Robb broke the seal. Wax cracked, a sound like bone giving way. He read, and with every line his hall seemed to grow colder, though the hearth still burned. When he looked up again, the envoy was watching him with the steady patience of a man who had already delivered his blow and was waiting to see if it landed. "What does the lion offer?" Edmure Tully asked, forcing the words out as if they were stones in his throat. Robb felt every eye on him, not only the lords and knights and sworn swords, but the banners themselves. The dire wolf and the trout, the flayed man, the sunburst of Carhold, the giant's chain, all the proud pieces of a realm that had been stitched together by grief and fury. He held the parchment higher so they could see it, but kept it in his hand. "Peace," Robb said, and tasted ash. "A pardon, and a price." Robb read the terms aloud because to keep them private would be to invite poison. Secrets were for men who wished to be stabbed in the dark. Robb had seen enough of that already. "His Grace King Joffrey," he began, and the title scraped the air like rust on stone, "offers mercy to those who have taken arms against the Iron Throne at the bidding of a false king." Great John spat onto the rushes. "False king. I'll show him false." Robb went on, ignoring the rumble. "Robb Stark, late styling himself king in the north, is to renounce all claims to kingship and bend the knee to King Joffrey Baratheon. In exchange, House Stark is confirmed in all its lands and titles. Robb Stark is to be named Warden of the North and Lord of Winterfell." A harsh laugh came from somewhere down the benches. Lord of Winterfell. The words hung there, ridiculous as a crown of snow. Winterfell was a blackened ruin, its towers broken, its people scattered like ash. Robb's fingers tightened on the parchment. He forced himself to keep reading. Upon the delivery of suitable wards as assurance of future peace, the sons and heirs of principal northern houses are to be sent to King's Landing to be fostered beneath the protection of the Iron Throne. A similar number of Riverlord wards shall be delivered from among House Tully's bannermen, as token of their renewed loyalty. Hostages, Brynden Tully said, flat as a blade. They mean hostages. Wards, Edmure insisted weakly, as if a softer word could soften a hard truth. Fostering is. It is a cage with velvet, the Blackfish cut in. His eyes never left Robb's face. Continue, Robb swallowed. All captives of House Lannister are to be returned unharmed, he read. Foremost Ser Jaime Lannister, son of Lord Tywin, to be delivered at once and in good health. A murmur ran through the hall, sharper than the river's voice. Catelyn's breath caught. Robb felt heat flush his neck, a sudden, burning shame that had nothing to do with the hearth. They did not know. Not all of them. Not yet. Rickard Karstark rose like a man drawn up by a hook. The Kingslayer, he said, his voice shaking with anger and something darker. Give him back, then, and end this farce with a blade through his heart. Roose Bolton tilted his head, faintly curious. Lord Tywin values his son, he said softly, as any father might. Robb heard in that mild tone the edge beneath. Father might, but fathers died too. Robb's father had died, and Tywin still lived. He read on. The northern host is to withdraw from the Riverlands. All armed men sworn to Robb Stark are to return north of the Neck and swear not to cross again in hostility. House Tully shall lay down arms and submit disputes to the king's justice. Edmure flinched as if struck. This was his land Tywin spoke of as though it were already counted, already owned. Lady Sansa Stark, Robb continued, and there it was, the part that made the hall lean forward, the part that made Catelyn's hands clench until her knuckles whitened, shall be treated with all courtesy due her station. Upon Robb Stark's submission, she shall be permitted such comfort as the king in his grace allows. Not returned, not freed, comfort, courtesy, grace. The words were oil poured on a fire. Great John Umber surged to his feet so fast his bench clattered back. Courtesy, he roared. They made her look at her father's head on a spike. They beat the girl and call it courtesy. Sire? The envoy began quickly, sensing the tide turning. Lord Tywin's meaning is, hold your tongue, Robb said, and the envoy stopped as if yanked by a chain. Robb stared at the parchment until the letters blurred. In the corner of his mind he saw Sansa's face, soft, frightened, trying so desperately to be brave. Arya's face too, fierce and stubborn and alive in every line. He did not know where Arya was. That was the worst part, not knowing whether to mourn or hope. The letter ended with an elegant threat dressed as counsel. Further resistance would bring ruin. Peace would preserve what could be preserved. Tywin's hand was visible in every line. No wasted words, no unnecessary flourish, only the careful arrangement of suffering. Robb lowered the parchment. For a heartbeat, the hall was silent. Even Grey Wind seemed to hold his breath. Then Rickard Karstark stepped forward, eyes shining. This is not peace, he said. It is chains. It is Ned Stark's blood sold for the promise of a cage. And you would take it. Robb met his gaze. I have not said what I would do, but he felt the answer forming inside him, cold and reluctant, like a river freezing from the edges inward. They climbed away from the hall because if Robb stayed, he would either break or be broken in front of them all. The solar above the courtyard smelled of damp wool and tallow. Rain tapped at the window, steady as a drumbeat. Somewhere below, men laughed too loudly, soldiers clinging to noise because silence felt like death. Catelyn shut the door herself, her hand lingering on the latch as if she feared someone might burst in and steal the moment from her. When she turned, her face was a mask of control, but grief had carved it thinner. Robb thought of all she had lost. He wondered how she still stood. He set the parchment on the table between them. Tywin's lion stared up in red wax. Catelyn did not reach for it. "You read it," she said. "I heard enough." "It demands Jaime," Robb said, and the words came out harsh, bitter. "And Sansa is still his hostage." Catelyn flinched, just a little. "Sansa is alive." Robb said. "Alive. Courtesy. Comfort. Grace." He spat the words like they were sour. "He does not offer to return her, Mother. He offers to keep her breathing." Catelyn's throat moved. For a moment she looked older than any mother should. "Breathing is something," she said quietly. Robb stared at her. He had seen her weep. He had seen her rage. He had seen her go hollow with grief when the Raven came with news of Winterfell's fall. But this was something else. A woman forcing herself to accept crumbs because crumbs might keep her child from starving. "Do you hear yourself?" Robb asked. "This is what we have come to?" "I hear myself," she said, and there was steel under the softness now. "And I hear the river, and the wind, and the men in your yard, shivering because winter is not a tale told to frighten children. I hear what you will not say aloud. The war has turned." Robb's jaw clenched. He thought of the Blackwater, of how Stannis Baratheon had come within a breath of taking the city, only for Tywin and the Tyrells to crash down like a hammer. The realm had watched and the realm had learned. The lion still had teeth. "We still have an army," Robb said. He hated how it sounded like pleading. "We still hold the Riverlands." "Do we?" Catelyn asked. Her gaze did not waver. "Your men are far from home. The ironborn still sit on our coasts, and the north cannot bleed forever without emptying. Winterfell is ash. The harvest is burned in places. Your lords are snarling at one another like dogs over a bone. And your sisters." Her voice caught, and she forced it steady. "Your sisters are alone in a nest of vipers." Robb turned away, restless, pacing to the window. Below, the courtyard glistened with rain. A stable boy ran, hunched against the cold. The world looked smaller from up here, as if he might hold it in his palm and crush it. "He calls me false," Robb said, staring out. "He calls father's death justice and names it mercy. He calls many things what he wishes," Catelyn said. "Tywin Lannister does not deal in truth. He deals in outcomes." Robb laughed once, without humor. "Outcomes? My father's outcome was a sword." Catelyn's voice softened. "Your father died because he was honorable in a court that punishes honor. You carry his face, Robb, and his stubbornness. But you do not have to carry his fate." He turned back. "If I bend the knee, what was it all for? The banners we raised, the men who died, the oaths they swore to me?" "For the North," Catelyn said, and the words were not grand. They were simple. "For what remains?" Robb stared at her, and something in his chest hurt. It was not the ache of defeat, not quite. It was the ache of understanding that a king could not afford to be only brave. "Jaime," he said quietly now. Catelyn's eyes flickered away for the first time. Her fingers tightened on the edge of her sleeve. Robb felt the truth click into place like a lock turning. "You sent him," he whispered. Catelyn's breath shuddered out. "I did," she said. "For Sansa. For Arya." Her voice rose, trembling. "I could not sit and do nothing while my daughters were beaten and used and threatened. I could not. I am their mother." Robb's anger surged, bright and terrible. For a heartbeat he saw his own face in the boy who had shouted in the hall, the boy who thought war was a straight line. Victory, then justice. Then it flickered, and he saw a man who had been asked to pay for hope with something he could not afford. "Tywin demands what I do not have," Robb said, his voice low, controlled by effort alone. "Jaime is gone," Robb said, forcing the words into the room like stones. "My mother," he stopped, swallowed. "Jaime is not in my custody." Catelyn stepped closer. "Then do not tell them yet," she said. "Not until you must." Robb looked at the wax seal again. Lion and chain. The weight of southern power pressed on him through ink. "If I accept," he said, "they will call me Oathbreaker. They will call me Craven. They will call you alive," Catelyn said. Her hand lifted, hovering, then settled against his cheek like she did when he was a child with fever. "And if you are alive, you can still protect what you can. Dead kings protect nothing." Robb closed his eyes for a moment, leaning into the touch, and felt the hollowness beneath his ribs where certainty used to live. When he opened them again, he asked the question he had been afraid to ask. What would father do? Catelyn's eyes shone. "Your father would die," she said. "So you must not." They gathered again with maps and tokens because men felt safer when war could be reduced to carved wood and inked lines. The riverlands sprawled beneath their hands like a wounded body. Burns where villages had been put to the torch, red marks for enemy garrisons, blue for fords and crossings, little black towers for castles that had opened their gates to the lion out of fear or hunger. Brynden Tully took a dagger and stabbed the point into the map near the trident. "Tywin speaks of withdrawal," he said. "He speaks as if you can simply lift your host and leave this land to rot." "It is my land," Edmure said hoarsely. His fingers tightened around his goblet. "My people. Your people are already dying," the Blackfish snapped. "And so are his. This is what Tywin offers. You leave, he takes what remains, and he keeps your kin as surety." Great John Umber's fist came down on the table so hard the tokens jumped. "We should answer his terms with heads," he roared. "Send him his peace, wrapped in lion hide." Roose Bolton's voice slid into the space between shouts. "A bold answer," he murmured, as if he discussed a hunt. "But boldness is not always wisdom." Great John rounded on him. "Do you counsel kneeling, flayed man?" "I counsel surviving," Bolton said, unbothered by the insult. "We are far from the north. Supply grows thin. Winter roads will soon turn to mud and ice. The Lannisters now hold King's Landing and have the Reach at their back. To continue is to fight the realm itself." Ricard Karstark snarled. "Then let us fight the realm. Better to die with steel in hand than live under a boy king's whip." "A boy king," Robb said, and the room quieted at his voice. "With the Reach and the West and the Crownlands and half the Riverlands behind him. A boy king with a grandfather who does not lose." Karstark's eyes glittered. "If you speak like this, your grace, then the crown you wear is already ash." Robb felt the words like a slap, but he did not flinch. He had learned, painfully, that the crown was not metal. It was expectation. It was the weight of every man who had shouted his name, and every widow who would curse it if it failed her. "You want me to refuse?" Robb said to them all. "Say it plainly." Great John did not hesitate. "Refuse," he thundered. Karstark's agreement was colder. "Refuse, and show the lions what it costs to kill a Stark." Others spoke. Galbart Glover's man, cautious. A Frey cousin who smelled opportunity. A piper who worried about his burned fields. Voices braided together, fear and pride tangled tight. Brynden Tully waited until they spent themselves, then looked at Robb. "And if you accept," the Blackfish said. "What then?" "Wards to King's Landing. The North chained by hostage. The Riverlands abandoned. Sansa kept close to the throne. Married, perhaps, to bind Winterfell by law. Is that the peace you want?" Robb saw Joffrey's smug face in his mind, golden and cruel. Saw Tywin behind him, eyes like ice, hands clean. Of blood because others did the cutting. "No," Robb said. "It is not the peace I want." "Then refuse," Great John said, satisfied. Robb leaned down over the map. His finger traced the neck, the long green bottleneck between north and south. Moat Cailin, the marshes, a natural fortress if held, a death trap if not. "The ironborn hold our coasts," Robb said, voice low. "They took Deepwood Motte. They took Torrens Square. They took Winterfell." A mutter of curses rose. Some had heard, some still did not like to speak it aloud, as if silence might undo it. "And we are here," Robb continued, tapping the map near Riverrun. South, bleeding for lands that are not ours, while the north burns. Edmure's face twisted. Not ours? The Riverlands are sworn to you, to us. I swore to protect them, Robb said, and I have tried. But tell me, Uncle, how do I protect two realms at once with one host and winter on the road? No one answered. The rain outside filled the silence. Roose Bolton's pale eyes fixed on Robb with something like interest. Peace would allow you to march north, he said, to retake what is yours. Peace would allow Tywin to tighten his grip, Brynden countered. And when you are north, he will do as he pleases to the Riverlands. Robb straightened slowly. He felt every gaze like a weight on his shoulders. Tywin offers me my title, Robb said. Warden, Lord, as if those words can rebuild burnt stone. Karstark leaned in. He offers you a collar, he hissed. Robb's hands spread on the table, palms flat. He offers me time, Robb said, and the words tasted strange. Time was a currency, and he had spent it like a fool, thinking he had endless stores. Time to fortify the neck. Time to pull the ironborn from the north. Time to find Arya. Time to save Sansa if saving was still possible. He looked at them one by one. Grachan's fury, Karstark's grief, Bolton's stillness, Edmure's fear, Brynden's hard, unblinking realism. I will answer Tywin, Robb said. The room tightened. And I will decide, he added, whether this war ends with my pride or with my people. That night he could not sleep. The bedchamber Riverrun gave him was too soft, too warm in a way that felt like a lie. He left it behind and climbed the narrow stairs to the ramparts, where the wind was honest. The cold struck him like a hand, hard and bracing. It smelled of river water and wet stone and the faint tang of smoke from 1,000 campfires. Below, in the fields beyond the walls, his men lay in their tents like scattered seeds. Soon the ground would harden. Soon snow would bury everything. The war did not care. Winter did not care. Gray wind followed without sound, a shadow at his heel. Robb took comfort in that quiet loyalty. Men argued, men doubted, men betrayed. The direwolf only watched and guarded and stayed. Robb rested his hands on the parapet. Far out beyond Riverrun, the darkness was thick, but he could imagine the roads. He could imagine the villages they had passed through, burned and emptied. He could imagine the little boy with a broken arm who had stared at him like he was either a savior or another lord come to take what little remained. Tywin Lannister had not ridden through those villages. Tywin had not looked those boys in the eye. Tywin had sent men to burn and rape and steal, and then sent an envoy with clean boots to offer peace. Robb pressed his jaw tight. He had been raised with tales of kings who fought for honor, who did not bend. But those kings lived in songs. In the world, bending could be the difference between a living child and a dead one. He thought of his father again, and the moment the sword fell. He had not been there. He had seen it only in his mind, over and over, conjured by rumor and rage. Ned Stark, kneeling, not to a king, to a lie, and the lie had killed him. If Robb kneeled, would he be kneeling to save his people, or kneeling to a lie that would devour them later? He closed his eyes and saw Winterfell as it had been. Smoke curling from chimneys, the sound of steel in the yard, Bran's laughter as he climbed where he should not, Rickon chasing cats through the halls. He saw the heart tree in the Godswood, its red leaves like 1,000 tiny hands reaching toward the sky. Then the image shifted, darkened. The raven's words, the sack, the fires, the broken towers. 2 small bodies burned and buried in place of his brothers. He had wanted to scream when he heard it. He had wanted to ride until his horse dropped and tear apart every ironborn he found with his bare hands. And yet he had stayed in the Riverlands, because a king could not abandon his allies, because honor demanded it, because he had believed he could win here and then go home with victory in his hands like a torch. Victory had turned in his grip. The torch had burned him. A footstep behind him. He did not turn at first. He knew the cadence. Ser Brynden says you should not stand in the wind, Catelyn said quietly. He fears you'll take a chill. Robb opened his eyes. He fears many things, he said. Catelyn came to the parapet beside him, her cloak pulled tight. Her hair had silvered at the temples, a new thing that made his chest ache. War aged mothers faster than swords aged men. She looked out at the river. It is strange, she said. How loud water is in the dark. It never stops, Robb murmured. Neither do the consequences, she replied. He glanced at her. In the torchlight, her face was carved with shadow. She looked as if she had been shaped by grief, not born. I am angry with you, Robb said, the confession raw. I know, she said simply. I am angry because you took my choice, he continued, voice rough. Jaime Lannister was my leverage, my threat, the only thing Tywin might truly fear. Catelyn's gaze did not flinch away. Tywin fears nothing he cannot control, she said. And Jaime was never truly in your control. Not while your lords thirsted for his blood. Robb's hands clenched on the stone. Stark would tear out his throat. And what then? She asked softly. Sansa's throat next? Robb's breath hitched. He hated how quickly the truth cornered him. Catelyn laid a hand on his arm. Robb, she said, using his name as if it were a plea and a command both. You are not your father. You do not have to die to prove you are honorable. He stared out at the river again. The foam looked like pale ghosts. If I kneel, he said, almost to himself, they will say the North broke. They will say many things, Catelyn replied, but the North will still breathe. And breathing is the beginning of every fight worth winning. Robb listened to the water. He listened to the wind. Somewhere in the darkness, a wolf howled. One of his own men's hounds, perhaps, or something wilder. He wondered what kind of king he would be if he chose peace. He wondered what kind of man he would be if he refused it. Jeyne Westerling waited awake, though her eyes were red with fatigue and fear. The chamber smelled of lavender and damp stone, as if someone had tried to mask Riverrun's cold with a sweeter lie. A basin of water sat on a stand, untouched, and beside it a cloth folded with careful hands. When Robb entered, she rose too quickly, a girl trying to become a queen by force of will. He had married her in a moment that had felt like mercy to one person and betrayal to many. He had told himself it was honor. He had told himself it was love. Tonight it felt like another stone in the sack he carried. My lady, he said, and heard how distant his own voice sounded. Jeyne crossed the space between them. She smelled of soap and nerves. They said there was a letter, she whispered, from Lord Tywin. Robb's jaw tightened. Word travels faster than ravens in a castle, he muttered. Her fingers touched his sleeve. What does it mean? Robb looked at her. The softness of her mouth, the earnest fear in her eyes. She was not made for this. Neither was he if the world had been fair. But the world was not fair, and fairness did not stop swords. It means Tywin offers peace, Robb said. Jeyne's breath came out in a small sound that might have been hope. Peace, she repeated as if tasting it. Does that mean the fighting could stop? It would stop, Robb said, and then, because truth mattered in rooms this small, he added, for a price. Jeyne's hand tightened on his sleeve. A price. Robb took her hand and held it, feeling the warmth of her skin against his calluses. He wants me to renounce the crown, Robb said, to bend the knee to Joffrey. Jeyne's eyes widened. But Robb, they call you king. They called me king, Robb corrected softly, because they were angry, because they wanted vengeance, because father died and the world demanded blood for blood. Her lower lip trembled. If you kneel, she whispered, will they hurt you? Robb almost laughed. Hurt. The war had already hurt him in ways a blade could not. It had hollowed him out, filled him with ghosts. If I kneel, he said, they will try to use me. Use the North. Use the Riverlands. They will demand wards. Hostages. Jeyne's hand went to her belly, instinctive, though there was no child quickening there yet. Only the possibility of one, and the fear of what that possibility might mean. Robb saw it and felt a sharp, sudden ache. A child of his would be a pawn the moment it drew breath. A shadow moved at the doorway. Cybele Spicer, Jeyne's mother, stood there, half in light, half in darkness, her eyes gleaming with calculation and worry. Robb did not like her. He did not trust her. Too many of her smiles looked like bargains. "My king," Cybele said, and the title sounded careful, measured. "Peace is a blessing. For all." Robb met her gaze. "For all?" he repeated. "For those who live," Cybele amended smoothly. Jeyne looked between them, confusion clouding her face. "Robb," she said, "if you do this, if you give up being king, what happens to me?" The question was not selfish. It was terrified. It was the question of a girl who had stepped into a story bigger than her and found there were no gentle endings. Robb squeezed her hand. "You will still be my wife," he said. "That does not change." "But will they punish you?" she pressed. "Will they punish your brothers, your mother, your family? For being with you?" Robb exhaled slowly. In Tywin's world, punishment was a tool like any other. Jeyne's family had bent their knee to Robb when he took the crag. Tywin would not forget. Tywin did not forgive. He simply chose when to collect. "I don't know," Robb admitted. The honesty tasted bitter. "I cannot know what Tywin will do. Only what he wants." "And what does he want?" Jeyne whispered. Robb's eyes drifted to the wall where a tapestry hung. Some bright, southern scene of summer fields, a world without war. It looked obscene. "He wants the North quiet," Robb said. "He wants the Riverlands broken. He wants my sister in his grasp. He wants everyone to believe resistance is pointless." Jeyne's grip tightened until her knuckles whitened. "Then don't give him that," she whispered, fierce suddenly. "Don't show him you can be made to kneel." Robb looked at her, surprised by the spark. "You think it's only about pride," he said. "I think it's about freedom," she replied, voice shaking. "About not being owned." Robb's chest tightened. Freedom. Brynden. Survival. The words tangled, indistinguishable when blood lay beneath them. He lifted Jeyne's hand to his mouth and pressed a kiss to her fingers, gentle as a promise and heavy as farewell. "I have to think like a king," Robb said quietly, "and kings do not always get to choose the cleanest path." Jeyne's eyes filled with tears. "Then choose the one that keeps you alive," she whispered, "because if you die, none of it matters." Robb closed his eyes for a moment. He had heard that before on the ramparts in his mother's voice. When he opened them again, he saw Cybele Spicer still watching, still measuring. Robb realized then that peace would not only end battles. It would invite new ones. Quieter, colder, fought with marriages and hostages and whispered knives. And he was not sure which kind of war he feared more. Edmure Tully prayed like a man trying to scrub blood from his hands with whispered words. The sept smelled of wax and old stone and damp wool. Candles burned in trembling rows, their light catching on the 7-pointed star carved above the altar. The Riverlands kept the faith more than the North did. Here gods had faces and names and were expected to listen. Robb paused at the doorway, watching his uncle's bowed head. Edmure had always been too eager to please, too quick to want the songs to say he was brave. In war, that hunger could kill thousands. Robb had learned that lesson the hard way. Brynden Tully stood near a pillar, arms folded, eyes sharp even in prayer. He looked like a man who did not trust gods any more than he trusted kings. Edmure looked up when Robb approached, blinking as if waking. His eyes were rimmed red. "Your Grace," he said, voice thick. "Uncle," Robb replied. The word felt strange now. Family had become politics. Love had become leverage. Edmure glanced at Brynden, then back. "Is it true?" he asked. Tywin offers what benefits Tywin," Brynden said flatly. "Speak plainly, boy." Robb's gaze flicked to the candles. "If I accept," Robb said, We withdraw from the Riverlands. Edmure's face crumpled. You can't, he whispered. Robb, you can't. The Lannisters will. They already have. Brynden cut in. They burn whether we stand or not. The question is how much of this land survives to be rebuilt. Edmure's hands clenched. It's my duty, he said, desperate. To protect them. To protect them, you need walls and men and food, Robb said. His voice softened, because he saw the fear beneath Edmure's pride. You need time. Edmure's mouth opened, then closed. He swallowed. And what does Tywin want from me? He asked, as if he already knew. Wards, Robb said. From the Riverlands. Hostages. Edmure's breath hitched. My son, he whispered, then stopped, because he had no son. Not yet. Only the possibility. Only Rosalind Frey, waiting somewhere at the twins like a gate with a face. Brynden's eyes narrowed. He wants your line in his hands, the Blackfish said, so he can squeeze whenever you twitch. Edmure turned away, pressing a hand to his mouth. For a moment Robb saw the boy Edmure must have been once, running along these halls dreaming of tourneys and honor. War had handed him a different dream, a nightmare of burned villages and screaming. I made mistakes, Edmure said finally, voice shaking. The fords. I thought. He swallowed hard. I thought I was doing right, holding the crossings, protecting my people. Robb's anger stirred, but he pushed it down. If he let it rise, it would drown him. You did what you thought was right, Robb said. So did I, and the realm did not reward it. Brynden's mouth tightened. Tywin did, he said. Tywin rewarded our mistakes. Edmure turned back, eyes pleading. If you leave, he said, they'll hang me from my own walls. They'll do to us what they did to your father. Robb felt the familiar twist in his gut at the mention. They might, he admitted. Then don't do it, Edmure whispered, frantic. Don't accept. Brynden's gaze snapped to Edmure. And then what? He demanded. We keep fighting while winter closes the roads? While the north burns? While the Freys grow fat and angry and the Boltons sharpen their knives? You speak of hanging, Edmure, there are worse ends than hanging. Tywin's peace is a cage. Yes, but a cage still keeps you alive. Edmure's face went pale. He looked like he might retch. Robb stepped closer. Uncle, he said quietly, if I refuse, I risk losing everything. If I accept, I risk losing the soul of what we fought for. Edmure's lips trembled. And what do you choose? Robb looked at the 7-pointed star, then at the candles, then at the rain-streaked window. Gods watched, kings watched, men watched. None of them could carry his choice for him. I choose the north, Robb said at last, because if the north falls, there will be no one left to remember why we fought. Edmure's eyes filled with tears. And the Riverlands? He whispered. Robb's throat tightened. I will not abandon you, Robb said, though he did not know how he could keep the promise. Not if there is any way to prevent it. Brynden Tully's gaze softened by a fraction. Then you'd best find that way, he said. Because Tywin will not. Roose Bolton did not pray. He did not shout. He did not clench his fists in anger like the great Jon, nor quake with fear like Edmure. Roose Bolton simply watched, and in his watching was a patience that made men uneasy, as if he waited for a body to stop twitching before he cut. In a corridor away from the great hall, where the torchlight thinned and the stone sweated cold, a Frey envoy approached him. The man wore gray and blue, the twins' colors dulled by travel. He smelled of river mist and opportunism. My lord, the envoy murmured, bowing just enough to show respect and not enough to show submission. Word is peace. Roose's expression did not change. Word is many things, he replied softly. The envoy's eyes flicked left and right, then he leaned in. Lord Walder hears the young wolf may bend, he whispered. Lord Walder wishes to know whether that is true. Roose Bolton's pale eyes reflected the torch flame without warmth. Lord Walder worries, he said. As old men do, they fear dying before their bargains are honored. The envoy swallowed. My lord, the Freys have been wronged. He began, as if reciting a prayer he had spoken many times. A pact broken, a daughter dishonored. Roose tilted his head. A slight, he agreed. And Lord Walder is a man who counts slights. The envoy produced a leather tube and held it out. A message, he said quickly. For you, from the twins. Roose took it, turning it once in his fingers. The tube was plain. The threat inside it was not. And what does Lord Walder offer? Roose asked mildly. The envoy's throat bobbed. He offers passage, he said. Loyalty, if the young wolf remembers his debts. Roose's mouth curved by the smallest degree, not quite a smile. Debts are always remembered, he murmured. In one way or another. The envoy leaned closer, his voice a breath. If Robb Stark kneels, the Freys must choose a side quickly, he said. The twins sit between north and south. Lord Walder does not wish to be caught on the wrong side. Roose looked down the corridor, where shadows deepened like ink spilled. Lord Walder has a talent for being on the right side, he said. No matter how the board turns. The envoy hesitated, then spoke the question that had brought him. And you, my lord? He asked. If Robb Stark kneels, where will you stand? Roose Bolton's eyes returned to the envoy's face. Where I have always stood, he said. Where the wind blows least cold. The envoy swallowed again. There are men in the north, he whispered, who will not accept kneeling. Men who will call it treason. Men say many things before they die, Roose replied. A sound drifted down the corridor. Distant laughter, then a shout, then silence. Riverrun breathed around them, unaware of the small conspiracies threading through its stone. The envoy's hand tightened on his cloak. Lord Walder wonders, he said cautiously, if peace changes certain plans. Roose's gaze did not flicker. Plans change The weather, he said. And winter is coming. The envoy nodded, uneasy, as if he did not like the way those words sounded when spoken without Stark honor behind them. He shifted his weight. Then you will write? He asked. Roose Bolton slid the leather tube into his sleeve. Perhaps, he said, if there is something worth saying. And if Robb Stark refuses? The envoy pressed, daring. Roose's eyes narrowed by a hair. Then the war continues, he said. And men like your lord and mine will continue to do what is necessary. The envoy bowed again, deeper this time. I will tell Lord Walder you are attentive, he said. Roose watched him go, the torchlight swallowing the man's back as he retreated into the maze of stone. When the corridor was empty, Roose Bolton turned his face toward the sound of the river beyond the walls. He listened, and in that listening was calculation, as precise as any maester's sums. Peace threatened to steal opportunities from men who thrived on chaos. If Robb Stark knelt, some knives would need to be sheathed, or redirected. Dawn came as a gray smear behind the rain, reluctant to show its face. The sky looked bruised. Robb sat at the writing desk in Riverrun Solar. Tywin's parchment spread out like a challenge. Maester Vyman hovered with ink and quill, his chain glinting softly in the dim light. Catelyn stood near the window, hands clasped. Brynden Tully leaned against the wall, arms folded, eyes like flint. Gray Wind lay near the door, half asleep but listening, as if he could hear the scratch of a quill before it happened. Robb stared at the blank parchment before him. He had led men into battle without flinching. He had looked at corpses and not vomited. He had heard the screams of dying horses and not turned away. Yet this clean sheet of paper made his hands feel heavier than any sword. What do I write? Robb asked quietly. Maester Vyman cleared his throat. Words that bind, he said. Words that leave no room for misreading. Tywin will misread what he pleases, Brynden muttered. Robb looked down at the seal wax, the Stark direwolf carved into the stamp. The symbol felt too big for him today. I cannot give him Jaime, Robb said, voice tight. Catelyn's breath caught. and Bryndon's eyes sharpened. Robb did not look at his mother. He could not yet. Jaime is gone, Robb said, forcing the words into the room like stones. My mother, he stopped, swallowed. Jaime is not in my custody. Bryndon's mouth tightened. He did not speak the accusation. He did not need to. The silence did it for him. Maester Vyman's eyes widened, flicking between them. Then Lord Tywin's demand is impossible, Robb finished. He rubbed at his brow, feeling the ache behind his eyes. But if I refuse because of that, we keep bleeding while the north burns. Bryndon's voice came harsh. And if you accept without meeting his demand, Tywin will claim you broke faith and use it as reason to butcher you. Robb's gaze snapped up. I know, he said. So we do not accept yet. Not fully. Catelyn turned from the window. Her eyes were tired, but steady. Then bargain, she said. Robb laughed once, bitter. With Tywin Lannister? With a lion, she replied. You use the only language it respects. Robb looked back at the parchment. Slowly, he took the quill. He began with courtesy because southern men loved courtesy the way they loved armor, shining on the surface, hiding the heart beneath. To Lord Tywin Lannister, Hand of the King. He paused, then wrote on. He did not call Joffrey rightful. He did not call himself false. He chose words that acknowledged power without kneeling to it. He wrote of the suffering of the Riverlands and the North, of the desire to spare the innocent further hardship. He wrote that he would consider terms that preserved his people's safety. He wrote carefully that any peace required the safe treatment and release of Sansa Stark to her family's custody, and the return of northern prisoners held by the crown. Brynden snorted softly at Teach. Release, he murmured. Tywin will laugh. Let him, Robb said without looking up. Let him know what I demand. He wrote that wards could be discussed, but only under mutual guarantees, hostages returned in equal measure with named persons and clear protections. He wrote that he would not abandon the Riverlands to slaughter, and that any withdrawal of northern forces must be paired with royal proclamations forbidding retaliation against those who had followed him. Tywin will never tie his own hands, Brynden said. Robb's quill scratched on. Then he will show the realm what his peace truly is, Robb replied. When he came to the matter of Jaime, his hand hesitated. The ink gathered at the nib. He wrote, Ser Jaime Lannister is not in my possession to deliver. I swear upon my honor that no harm by my order shall come to him, and I will not interfere with his safe passage should he come within my reach. It was a thin thing, a thread. It might snap the moment Tywin pulled, but it was all he had. Robb set the quill down. His fingers were ink-stained. He stared at the letter as if it were a blade he had forged and was now uncertain he could wield. Is that enough? He asked, voice low. Enough to provoke, Brynden said. Enough to delay. Enough to show your hand without showing your throat. Catelyn stepped closer. Enough to begin, she said softly. Robb looked at the Stark seal again. He pressed it into the hot wax, watching the direwolf shape form. Sharp, proud, unmistakable. The wax cooled quickly, the image hardening. In the quiet that followed, the river's voice seemed louder. Robb felt as if he were standing on a thin bridge over deep water, and every word he wrote was another plank laid beneath his feet. He handed the letter to Maester Vyman. Send it, Robb said. The Maester bowed and moved away, carrying the parchment like a fragile truce. Robb remained at the desk, staring at the space where the letter had been, as if the absence of it might reveal something about what he truly wanted. Brynden's voice broke the silence. You have not answered the heart of it, he said. Robb did not look up. What heart? The kneeling, Brynden said. The crown. Whether you will swallow that for the sake of peace. Robb's throat tightened. He thought of the hall, the banners, the men who had cried his name. He thought of Sansa's frightened face. He thought of Winterfell's ash. I don't know yet, Robb admitted and hated himself for it. Catelyn's hand rested briefly on his shoulder. You will, she said, when you see what Tywin answers with. Robb stared at the dawn, gray and bruised. He wondered if it was the beginning of something, or simply the same darkness wearing a different mask. The Godswood of Riverrun was smaller than Winterfell's, but it carried the same hush, the same sense that the world beyond its trees was louder and less true. The air smelled of wet leaves and cold earth. Rain dripped from branches in slow, patient drops. The heart tree stood pale against the gray, its red leaves like blood scattered across white bone. Robb walked beneath it alone at first, though he knew he was never truly alone in such a place. The old gods watched through bark and root. The past watched through memory. Duty watched through the eyes of every man who had sworn him a pledge. He placed his hand on the heart tree's carved face. The grooves were dark with rainwater. The eyes stared empty and knowing at once. He closed his own eyes and tried to remember what it had felt like, that first moment they crowned him. The hall at Riverrun, the roar of men, the fierce pride in their faces. He had been so young then and so sure. The crown had seemed like a promise the world could not break. Now it felt like a noose made of honor. Footsteps behind him, soft on wet grass. He did not turn. He knew. Catelyn had followed at a distance, respecting the quiet the way she respected the dead. "You came here," she said softly. Robb kept his hand on the tree. "Winterfell's Godswood is ash," he replied. "I needed to remember what it feels like to stand beneath a living tree." Catelyn's voice caught. "It will be rebuilt," she said, though neither of them knew if that was true. Robb opened his eyes and stared into the carved face. "Tywin will answer," he said. "He will answer with conditions and threats and clever words meant to make me think I have choices when I do not." Catelyn stepped closer, careful, as if she approached a wounded animal. "You do have choices," she said. Robb let out a breath that was almost a laugh. "Do I?" he asked. "If I refuse, I drag the North through winter with the whole realm against us. If I accept, I put the North under the throne's heel and call it peace." Gray wind shifted, ears turning toward distant sounds, then settling again. The direwolf's presence grounded Robb in something primal and simple. Wolves did not agonize over parchment. They protected their pack. "I was crowned because father died," Robb said quietly. "Because Joffrey cut off his head and mocked us with it. Men wanted revenge. They wanted justice. They wanted blood." Catelyn's voice was a whisper. "And you gave them victories." "I gave them hope," Robb said. "And now I might take it away." Catelyn did not deny it. She only looked at him with the fierce love that had carried her through too many funerals. Robb's fingers tightened on the bark. "If I kneel," he said, "I kneel where father died." Catelyn's eyes shone. "You kneel so your sisters do not die," she replied. "So the North does not freeze and starve while its king chases a dream of vengeance." Robb swallowed. The words were simple. They did not feel noble. They felt like survival. He turned his head slightly, just enough to see her without leaving the tree. "Do you think they'll forgive me?" he asked. Catelyn's mouth trembled. "Who?" "The North," Robb said. "The men who called me king. Greatjon, Karstark, all of them." Catelyn's gaze went distant, as if she stared beyond Riverrun's walls to a land of snow and stone. "The North forgives what it must," she said quietly. "It does not forget, but it knows what winter means." Robb looked back at the carved face. In the water pooled in its grooves, he saw a broken reflection of himself. Young, damp-haired, eyes tired beyond his years. He thought of Ned Stark again, and for a moment he imagined his father standing beside him, hand on his shoulder, saying nothing because he did not know how to live in a world that punished honor. Ned Stark had been a man made for a better realm. Robb Stark had been made for this one. He drew his hand away from the tree and let it fall to his side. He felt the absence of the crown like a phantom weight. His fingers curled, empty. "I will not decide out of pride," Robb said, voice firming. "Not out of anger, not because men shout." Catelyn watched him, silent. "I will decide as Lord of Winterfell," Robb continued, and the title hurt, but he claimed it anyway. As Warden of the North, crown or no crown, because someone must think of what comes after the battles. Grey Wind stepped closer, pressing his head briefly against Robb's leg, then lifting it again, watchful. Robb looked up through the dripping branches to the gray sky. Somewhere beyond it, winter gathered its strength. Tywin thinks he offers me mercy, Robb said, but he offers me a lesson, that the realm is not won only with swords. It is won with fear. Catelyn's voice was soft. And you will answer? Robb's jaw set. I will answer, he said. And when his answer comes, I will choose a path that keeps the North alive long enough to face what truly threatens it. Catelyn stepped forward, her hand brushing his arm. That is all a mother can ask, she whispered. Robb stood beneath the heart tree, listening to rain strike leaves like 1,000 tiny drumbeats. And for the first time since the letter arrived, he felt something steadier than anger or fear settle in him. Not certainty, resolve. Whatever Tywin Lannister answered with, Robb Stark would not be driven like a beast. He would make his own surrender, if surrender he must, on his own terms, for his own people and with his eyes open. And if the realm called him craven for it, then the realm could learn what winter did to those who mistook pride for strength. The Red Keep wore victory the way a wounded man wore bandages. Tight, concealing, reeking faintly of blood beneath perfume. Outside, Blackwater Bay still carried the aftermath of fire. Even weeks later the wind could turn and bring the sour bite of burned pitch and charred wood through the narrow windows, as if the battle refused to be buried. Below the castle's high walls the city kept on, because cities always did, hungry, loud, obscene in its resilience. But the scars were everywhere if a man cared to look. New timbers propped blackened roofs. Fishermen hauled nets that came up tangled with broken arrows and half-melted lumps of green glass that no one touched with bare hands. Tywin Lannister cared to look. He cared because the realm was a ledger, and every scar was an entry. He sat at the long table in the Hand Solar with Robb Stark's letter unfolded before him. The direwolf seal had cracked under his thumb with a sound like dry bone. He read once, then read again more slowly, as if savoring the boy's attempt at caution and courage. The language was careful. The demands were predictable. The weakness lay not in what the young wolf asked for, but in the very act of asking. Kevin stood behind him, solid and quiet, the way a good sword arm should be when a man needed to think. Grand Maester Pycelle hovered like a resentful ghost, eager to please and terrified of failing. Varys watched from a corner, smiling faintly with eyes that never truly smiled. Cersei lingered at the window, her reflection sharp in the glass. When she spoke, her voice was bright with contempt. He wants his sister, she said. He wants pardons and protections, as if he still holds the realm at sword point. He wants to stop losing, Tywin said without looking up. Cersei turned from the window. We should answer with steel, she snapped. Send him another head, and he'll learn what mercy costs. Tywin finally lifted his gaze. The look he gave her could have frozen wine. Steel is expensive, he said. Blood is not always the surest coin. Cersei's nostrils flared. He calls himself king. He crowned himself on the bodies of our men. And now he offers to uncrown himself, Tywin replied, tapping the parchment with a forefinger. Not out of sudden virtue, out of necessity. Kevin shifted slightly. If he kneels, he said, cautious, the North quiets. The Riverlands. The Riverlands do not quiet, Cersei cut in. They bleed. Tywin's mouth tightened. The Riverlands will bleed until they learn the price of rebellion, he said. Or until we appoint men who will teach them. Pycelle cleared his throat, his chain clinking softly. My Lord Hand, he began. The boy's letter speaks of mutual wards of. Tywin raised a hand. Pycelle stopped at once, as obedient as a trained dog. Tywin read the final lines again. Robb's careful oath about Jaime Lannister, the phrasing that tried to promise without giving. He felt the shape of the truth behind the ink. The Kingslayer been their hostage. Hostages did not slip away without help. The Stark woman had done it, Tywin would have wagered his own gold on it. Cersei's lips curled. "He cannot give you Jaime," she said, delight threading through her malice. "So he cannot meet your terms. That means no peace, doesn't it? No pardon. No merci. Only war until he's dragged through the mud." Tywin folded the letter once, then again, precise. "It means we dictate the terms," he said, "as we always have." Varys drifted forward, hands folded in his sleeves. "The North is a stubborn land," he murmured. "Stubborn men do not always remain obedient, even when you call them pardoned." Tywin's eyes narrowed. "Then we do not rely on obedience," he said. "We rely on leverage." Cersei's smile sharpened. "Sansa Stark," she said. Tywin did not correct her. He did not need to. The girl was leverage, and more than that. She was a claim wrapped in a pretty face. Winterfell, the North, the vastness of land and snow and stubborn pride. All of it could be drawn down into one frightened girl if a man knew how to write the proper contract. Kevan watched him. "What answer will you send?" he asked. Tywin stood, the hand's chain catching the candlelight. He moved to the table where maps lay spread, river roads, castles, choke points, names written in Maester's careful hands. His finger traced the route north. From the capital to the Trident, to the Twins, to the Neck. "We will offer peace," Tywin said at last. "But not peace on his terms. He will renounce his crown. He will bend the knee in the sight of witnesses. He will deliver wards of sufficient value to make rebellion unthinkable. He will withdraw his host beyond the Neck, and he will leave the Riverlands to their king's justice." Cersei's eyes gleamed. "And the girl?" Tywin's gaze returned to Robb's folded letter. "The girl remains where she is useful," he said. Cersei's smile widened, satisfied in a way that made even Pycelle look uneasy. Tywin did not smile. He did not allow himself that softness. A lion did not grin. A lion closed its jaws. "Send ravens," Tywin ordered. Pycelle bobbed. "At once, my lord." "To Riverrun," Tywin continued. "With my answer, to the Twins, to the Dreadfort." Varys' smile did not change, but his eyes sharpened. "To Lord Walder Frey and Lord Roose Bolton," he murmured. "How industrious." Tywin met his gaze. "Industry builds kingdoms," he said, "and ends wars." Outside, King's Landing roared on, ignorant of the quiet decisions that would change the lives of thousands. Tywin Lannister returned to his chair, lifted quill to parchment, and began to write a piece that tasted like iron. Sansa had learned that hope was dangerous in King's Landing. It rose too easily and drew arrows. Still, it lived in her like a stubborn weed between stones, refusing to die no matter how often it was trampled. The gardens of the Red Keep had been made for summer. In winter they looked fragile, as if the cold might snap them the way a cruel boy snapped wings off flies. Frost clung to rose stems. The fountains ran slower, their water thin and reluctant. The air smelled of damp earth and fading sweetness. Margaery Tyrell walked beside her with the practiced ease of a girl raised among courtiers. She wore green and gold, and her smile was a warm thing in a place where warmth usually hid knives. Sansa had wanted to distrust her. She had tried, but kindness, even when it served a purpose, still felt like kindness. Lady Olenna sat nearby, wrapped in furs like a small, sharp-eyed bird. Her cane rested across her knees. She watched Sansa the way a hawk watched a rabbit, curious, assessing, amused. "You've the look of someone who expects a storm," Olenna said, her voice dry. "Or perhaps you simply live among storms and forget what a clear sky feels like." Sansa lowered her eyes. "The sky in King's Landing is never truly clear," she murmured. "Smoke from the city always found its way up. Even here, behind walls, the world's filth drifted in." Margaery gave her a sympathetic glance. "My grandmother enjoys speaking plainly," she said, as if that explained everything. "It is her most dangerous habit." "It's my most useful," Olenna corrected. "Tell me, child, have they been cruel to you today, or merely dull?" Sansa's fingers curled into her sleeves. The bruises Joffrey had given her were hidden beneath fine cloth. The words he had given her had no hiding place. "They are as they are," she said carefully. Olenna snorted. "As they are," she repeated. "What a brave little phrase. It means they are monsters and you have learned to survive them." Margaery's hand brushed Sansa's arm, gentle. "My brother says the war may change," Margaery said softly, eyes forward. "There are whispers." Whispers were King's Landing's favorite food. Sansa's heart quickened despite herself. "What whispers?" she asked, then immediately regretted the hunger in her voice. Margaery smiled slightly. "That your brother writes to Lord Tywin," she said. "That there is talk of peace." Sansa's breath caught. For a moment the garden blurred. Peace. The word sounded like a song she half remembered from childhood. Something distant and impossible. She saw Robb's face in her mind. Older than she remembered, crowned in grief and fury. She had prayed to the gods for his victory. She had prayed for Joffrey's death. She had prayed until prayer became a habit and not a hope. "Peace," she whispered. Olenna's cane tapped once on stone. "Peace means bargains," she said. "And bargains mean marriages. Always. Men fight with swords and make peace with beds." Sansa's stomach tightened. She thought, oh, Joffrey's hands, his laughter, the way he looked at her as if she were something he owned. She thought of the day he had forced her to look at her father's head. Peace with Joffrey was not peace. It was surrender. Margaery's voice remained soft, but her eyes were intent. "If Robb Stark bends the knee," she said, "Lord Tywin may wish to show mercy, to prove his strength." Sansa wanted to believe that, wanted to imagine herself leaving the Red Keep, breathing air that did not taste like fear. But she had lived too long among lions to forget how they hunted. What would his mercy look like? Sansa asked, and hated that she had to ask it like that, as if mercy were a shape a man could choose. Olenna's smile was thin. "It would look like whatever keeps the North quiet," she said. "And whatever keeps you useful." Sansa flinched. Margaery's hand tightened briefly on her arm. "It may also look like safety," Margaery said quickly, as if to soothe the sting. "If Robb Stark truly seeks peace, then you are a hostage," Olenna finished, utterly unbothered by the bluntness. "A precious one. Don't mistake that for affection, my dear. Men can love gold without loving the mine." Sansa swallowed. The roses around them were red as fresh blood against winter's pale. She thought of Winterfell's Godswood, the heart tree, the smell of snow and pine. She thought of Arya's wild grin and Bran's eager eyes. She thought of her mother's hands fixing her hair. "Do you think he would come for me?" Sansa asked quietly. Margaery's eyes softened. "I think he thinks of you," she said. "And that counts for something." Olenna's gaze sharpened. "Count what matters," she said. "Think like a survivor, not like a song. If peace comes, it will come with strings. Decide now what you will do when those strings tighten." Before Sansa could answer, a page appeared at the garden's edge, cheeks red from cold and haste. He bowed to Margaery, then to Olenna, then looked at Sansa with quick, frightened eyes. "My lady," he said, voice shaking. "Lord Tywin requests Lady Sansa Stark's presence." Sansa's blood turned to ice. Margaery's hand lingered on her arm as if to keep her from falling. "Breathe," she whispered. "Whatever he wants, you must not let him see your fear." Sansa forced her spine straight. She rose, smoothing her skirts with hands that wanted to tremble. She had been taught to be a lady. In King's Landing, being a lady was armor. As she followed the page out of the garden, the roses seemed to watch her like red eyes. The word peace echoed in her mind, bright and treacherous. She did not know whether it was a door opening or a new cage being built. Tyrion's chambers smelled of wine and ointment. The healers had packed his wounds with poultices that stank of herbs and rot. His nose, what remained of it, ached when he breathed. The scar that cleaved his face from brow to jaw pulled tight every time he spoke, as if his own skin tried to silence him. He sat with a goblet in hand, staring into the red as though it might answer questions better than men did. His father entered without being announced, because Tywin Lannister did not require permission to step into spaces he owned. Behind him came Cersei, her smile sharp as a knife's edge. Tyrion almost laughed. Even victory could not soften her. It only made her crueler. "You look well," Cersei said brightly, eyes flicking to the bandages. For a man who was nearly killed by his own side. Tyrion raised the goblet. "You wound me," he murmured. "More carefully next time." Tywin ignored the exchange. He moved to the table where Tyrion's ledgers lay half-finished, coins stacked in uneven towers. He picked up a tally sheet, glanced at it, and set it down as if the numbers were beneath his attention. "You will serve as master of coin," Tywin said. Tyrion blinked. He had expected punishment. He had expected to be sent away, perhaps, or quietly murdered in some alley with no witnesses. This was almost worse, responsibility offered like a leash. "How generous," Tyrion said. "And here I thought my reward for saving the city would be to watch you take credit for it." Tywin's eyes were cold. "You did not save the city," he said. "You delayed its fall long enough for my army to arrive. That is all." Cersei's smile widened at the dismissal. Tyrion felt a familiar spark of anger, hot and helpless. He drank it down with wine. "And what else?" Tyrion asked, because gifts from Tywin always had claws. Tywin's gaze held him. "You will marry," he said. Tyrion's stomach tightened. "Marry," he repeated, as if the word were foreign. "Sansa Stark," Tywin said, and the name landed like a stone. For a moment Tyrion heard nothing but the fire's low crackle and his own heartbeat. Then Cersei laughed softly, delighted. "No," Tyrion said at last, voice rough. "Absolutely not." Tywin did not blink. "You will," he said. Tyrion set his goblet down hard enough that wine sloshed. "She is a child," he hissed. "And she hates us. She has every reason to." "Why would you?" "Because she is Winterfell," Tywin cut in. "Because she is the North in the eyes of law and those who still pretend law matters. Your nephew sits the Iron Throne, but thrones are not held only by swords. They are held by claims. We will secure the Stark claim." Tyrion's hands curled, nails biting into his palms. He thought of Sansa's frightened eyes, the way she flinched when someone moved too quickly. He had seen her beaten, humiliated, displayed like a prize. He had tried, in small ways, to lessen the cruelty. It had never been enough. "You could marry her to Joffrey," Tyrion spat. Cersei's eye flashed. "Joffrey will marry Margaery Tyrell," she snapped. "A queen must bring armies, not northern snow." Tywin's voice remained measured. "Margaery brings the Reach," he said. "Sansa brings Winterfell. You will take Sansa and give me a son from her. A Stark with Lannister blood. That child will be our key." Tyrion laughed, a harsh sound that pulled at his scar. "A son," he said. "From me, from her. You speak as if children are forged like swords." Tywin's gaze did not soften. "Children are alliances," he said. "They are futures, and you will provide one." Tyrion's throat tightened. "And if I refuse?" he asked quietly. Cersei stepped forward, her voice a purr. "Then father will find another way," she said. "He always does. Perhaps he'll marry her to Lancel, Itcham, or to some Frey whelp. Or perhaps he'll simply let Joffrey have his fun again and again until she breaks." Tyrion's eyes went to Tywin. "You would allow that?" he demanded. Tywin did not answer Cersei's cruelty. He did not need to. His silence was confirmation enough. He would allow whatever served his purpose, and regret nothing.
Tyrion Sdalovet bile.
He wanted to smash something. He wanted to scream. Instead, he did what he had always done. He looked for the least ugly path in an ugly choice. "If I marry her," Tyrion said slowly, "I will not force her. I will not hurt her." Cersei laughed again, contemptuous. "How noble," she said. "A Lannister saint." Tywin's eyes narrowed. "You will do what is required to secure the line," he said. Tyrion felt his scar pull as he bared his teeth. "I will marry her," he said, "because you'll do worse if I don't. But do not pretend this is honor. It is coercion dressed in silk." Tywin's expression did not change. "Call it what you like," he said. "The realm will call it peace." Tyrion's laughter died in his throat. Peace. Another cage. Another contract written in blood. When Tywin turned to leave, Cersei followed, her steps light, satisfied. At the door she paused, looking back at Tyrion with bright malice. "Try not to lose the rest of your face before the wedding," she said sweetly. "Sansa Stark deserves at least one handsome memory." The door closed. Tyrion sat in the fire's low light, staring at the spilled wine on the table like a small, fresh wound. Somewhere in the castle, Sansa Stark was being summoned. And Tyrion Lannister, for all his wit, could not think of a single clever word that would save either of them. Tywin did not rush. Men who rushed made mistakes, and mistakes were paid for in blood and reputation. He wrote with the steady patience of a man who knew time served him as surely as armies did. The parchments lay before him in a neat stack, each one measured, each one bearing the beginning of a sentence that could shift a kingdom. Kevan watched in silence, occasionally stepping forward to hand Tywin a different seal, a different wax, as if the tools of power were nothing more than household implements. Tywin's letter to Riverrun was firm, unyielding beneath its politeness. He offered what Robb Stark needed most, an end to the Southern War, while making it clear that the terms were not negotiable in substance, only in ceremony. Renounce the crown, bend the knee, deliver wards, withdraw beyond the neck. Submit the Riverlands to the king's justice. The king would be merciful, because mercy was stronger when it was optional. He did not promise Sansa's release. He promised her safety under the protection of the crown, which meant whatever Tywin decided it meant. He mentioned, as if in passing, that House Stark's future would be secured by lawful marriage, and that Sansa Stark's union would be arranged in due course. He knew the line would sting. He wanted it to. The second letter bore the seal of House Frey, addressed to Walder Frey at the Twins. Tywin's quill moved more delicately here. Walder Frey was not a man to be commanded outright. He was a man to be rewarded and soothed and reminded of his own importance until he forgot he was being used. Tywin praised Lord Walder's prudence. He spoke of the twins' strategic value and the crown's gratitude. He noted that certain insults had been offered to House Frey by a boy too proud for his own good, and that the crown recognized such insults required remedy. He suggested, carefully, that peace offered opportunity, the chance to bind houses together by marriage, to heal wounded honor, to prove loyalty at a moment when loyalty would be remembered. And then, like the point of a needle slid under skin, he made his true request. That Lord Walder Frey ensure the safe and orderly passage of Robb Stark's host as it returned north, and that he be prepared to receive the young wolf for a public submission if the boy chose wisdom over folly. No mention of slaughter, no invitation to treachery. Tywin was not so foolish as to put such things in ink. But the implication sat there, fat and knowing. The twins would be the hinge upon which this peace turned. Walder Frey would be paid for holding that hinge. The third letter went to the Dreadfort to Roose Bolton. This one contained fewer compliments. Bolton did not require them. Bolton required clarity and reward. Tywin's words were simple. If Robb Stark accepted peace, the crown expected House Bolton to assist in enforcing it, to keep the North quiet, to ensure the king's laws were respected. In return, the crown would remember House Bolton's service and would see that those who had been wronged by Stark arrogance were compensated. Kevan shifted when he read that over Tywin's shoulder. "You trust Bolton?" he asked quietly. Tywin pressed the wax seal into place, the lion hardening as it cooled. "I trust Bolton's interest," he said. "It aligns with mine." "And the Frey?" Kevan asked. Tywin's mouth tightened by a fraction. "I trust Walder Frey's hunger," he said. "A hungry man can be guided. He follows the scent of advantage." Kevan studied the map, finger hovering over the twins. "If Robb Stark comes there," he said, "he will be vulnerable. Tywin's eyes remained on the parchments. "He is already vulnerable," he said. "He simply hasn't admitted it." Kevin hesitated. "Will you allow them to kill him?" he asked, because sometimes even Kevin needed the brutal question spoken aloud. Tywin's gaze lifted, sharp. "If Robb Stark dies as a rebel king," he said, "the North will howl and bite for a generation. If Robb Stark lives as the king's pardoned warden, the North will grumble and endure. I prefer endurance." Kevin nodded slowly. He understood the difference between victory and stability. Tywin had built his life upon it. Tywin gathered the sealed letters and handed them to the waiting soldier. "To the Ravenry," he commanded. The soldier bowed and left, carrying peace like a bundle of knives. Tywin returned to the map. His finger traced the route again, from Riverrun to the Twins to the Neck. He imagined Robb Stark on that road, young, proud, cornered. A boy with a crown of snow, offered the chance to melt it on southern terms. Tywin's lips did not smile, but inside, a ledger entry shifted in his favor. The Raven arrived at noon, wings slick with rain, its feet bound with red thread. Maester Vyman's face was pale when he carried the message into the hall. Robb knew before he broke the seal that Tywin would not grant him anything he truly wanted. He only wondered what form the refusal would take. The hall filled quickly. Men sensed turning tides the way dogs sense storms. They gathered with hard eyes and restless hands, as if they might fight the ink itself. Robb stood at the high table, Tywin's seal between his fingers. The lion stared up at him, smug in wax. He snapped it. The crack sounded loud. He read once, silently, then lifted his eyes. Catelyn's face held stillness too tight. Brynden's jaw was set. Roose Bolton's pale gaze did not flicker. Great John Umber looked like a man waiting for permission to explode. Rickard Karstark looked like a man already burning. Robb read aloud. Tywin's words were polished, measured. He acknowledged Robb's concern for the welfare of his people, as if indulging a child's earnestness. He praised the courage of northern men in battle, the bravery of those who had followed Robb into the Riverlands, and then, like a blade slipped between ribs, he stated that such courage would be best served by obedience. Renounce the crown, bend the knee, deliver wards named, valued, highborn enough to matter, withdraw beyond the neck, submit the Riverlands. No mention of mutual hostage exchange. No promise of safety beyond Tywin's vague king's protection. A man did not trade with Tywin, he surrendered. When Robb reached the line about Sansa, her continued protection under the crown until such time as her marriage could be arranged to secure peace, the hall erupted. Great John Umber roared like a wounded beast. "Marriage," he thundered. "They mean to breed her like a damn mare." Karstark's hand flew to his sword. "This is treachery," he spat. "This is them spitting on your father's grave and calling it courtesy." Edmure looked sick. "They will keep her," he whispered, horror breaking through. "They will keep her, Anne." "Silence," Robb said sharply, and gray wind rose with him. Hackles raised, teeth bared in a silent promise. The room quieted, not from obedience alone but from the primal warning of the wolf. Robb kept reading because he needed them to hear the full shape of the cage. Tywin required a public act of submission, in the sight of men whose witness will bind the realm, naming the Twins as the proper place for such ceremony, neutral ground between north and south, a bridge that could be both passage and trap. He offered pardons to those who bent quickly. He offered punishment, undefined, ominous, to those who did not. He promised that the Iron Throne would see the North restored once peace was made, as if the Iron Throne had been the one to burn Winterfell and steal the coast. When Robb finished, he lowered the parchment. His hand did not tremble. Inside, something trembled anyway. Karstark stepped forward, Ard voice shaking with fury. "If you even consider this," he said, "then you are not the king we crowned." Great John slammed his fist on the table. "We crowned you to kill lions, not to lick their paws." Roose Bolton spoke softly, almost regretful. "Lions do not offer terms without advantage," he said. But advantage can sometimes be taken both ways. Karstark rounded on him. You would advise kneeling, Bolton? He snarled. Bolton's pale eyes were calm. I advise living, he replied. Brynden Tully's voice cut through. Enough, he snapped. Shouting does not change ink. Greatjon glared, breathing hard, but he held. Robb looked at them, the anger, the fear, the pride. He saw men who had followed him because they believed he could protect them. He saw men who would die rather than admit fear. He saw men who would happily sacrifice other men's sons as wards if it meant keeping their own safe. He imagined a line of boys traveling south under guard, their mothers watching from castle gates with hands clenched to keep from screaming. Hostages, dressed as honor. Catelyn's gaze held his. He could not read everything in it, but he saw one truth. She would endure almost any humiliation if it meant Sansa lived. Robb turned back to the hall. Tywin offers peace, he said, voice steady. And he offers it like a man offers bread to a starving dog. Only close enough to taste, never close enough to take. Karstark's eyes burned. Then bite his hand, he growled. Greatjon's grin was savage. I, he said, bite, tear, kill. Edmure swallowed, voice thin. And if we refuse, he whispered. What then? The question hung. No one shouted at it. No one could. Robb looked down at Tywin's letter again. The words were cold, but they were not lies. The Lannisters now held the south with reach strength. Winter approached. The north was wounded. The Riverlands were exhausted. A king could drown his realm in pride as easily as in blood. Robb lifted his head. I will not answer him here, he said. Not yet. Karstark's jaw tightened. You mean you will consider, he hissed. Robb met his gaze. I mean I will think, he said, which is more than most men do before they die. Karstark's stare held a heartbeat longer. Then he turned away, shoulders rigid with contempt. Roose Bolton's expression did not change, but his eyes followed the shift like a man watching a door open a fraction. Tywin's raven had brought ink. Now it had brought division. Brynden Tully did not waste words when the door shut. He moved to the map table and stabbed a finger at the twins as if he could pin the place in place with anger alone. He wants you there, the Blackfish said. That's the first truth. He wants your knee on Frey's stone, with Frey eyes watching, so every lord in the realm hears of it. Robb stared at the ink towers. The twins looked small on parchment. In life they were huge, looming a chokehold over the river. Neutral ground, Robb murmured, tasting Tywin's phrasing. Neutral like a noose is neutral. Brynden's mouth tightened. Neutral like a bridge you can't cross without permission, he agreed. Tywin thinks he's clever. He is clever, Robb said, and hated the admission. The torchlight flickered, casting shadows over the map like moving armies. Gray wind lay near the door, ears pricked, eyes half-lidded but watchful. Robb envied that certainty. Wolves did not need to weigh honor against starvation. If I refuse, Robb said, we keep fighting until winter buries us. If you accept, Brynden countered, you walk into the twins with half your lords snarling at your back and the other half thinking of their sons as wards. Robb's fingers traced north along the map. The neck, Moat Cailin, the causeway through the bogs. If I get north, he said quietly, I can take back the coast. I can cut out the ironborn like rot. I can fortify the neck before Tywin decides peace is inconvenient. Brynden's eyes narrowed. And how do you get north? He demanded. With Frey gates between you and home. Robb set a dagger on the map, point resting on the twins. We make Walder Frey need us, he said. Brynden snorted. Walder Frey needs nothing but time to die, he said. And he's stubborn enough to outlive us all. Robb's jaw tightened. He needs his blood remembered, Robb said. He needs his insult answered. He needs his house raised higher than the river mud. Brynden looked at him a long moment. And you think you can give him that without giving him your throat, he said. Robb did not pretend certainty. I think I can reduce the risk, he said. If I accept peace, Tywin will want me alive to quiet the north. That means Walder Frey cannot simply butcher us without consequence. Brynden's gaze sharpened. You assume Tywin prefers you alive, he said. Robb met his eyes. If I die a rebel king, Robb said, the north fights forever. If I live a pardoned warden, the north grumbles and endures. Tywin wants endurance. He wants the realm to stop bleeding. Brynden's mouth twisted. He wants the realm to bleed where he chooses, he corrected. Robb's hand curled around the dagger's hilt. Either way, he said. He doesn't want a northern martyr. Brynden considered that. Perhaps, he admitted. But Walder Frey is not Tywin. Walder Frey is pride and spite in an old body. He could kill you simply to prove he can. Robb exhaled. Then I don't go to the twins blind, he said. We send envoys RST. We set the terms with Frey. We make Edmure's wedding the price of his cooperation and the proof of our sincerity. Brynden's eyes narrowed further. Edmure's wedding is already demanded, he said. Frey wants it like a dog wants meat. And we give it, Robb said, feeling the bitterness as he spoke. Because we need the bridge. Brynden's voice dropped. And your crown? He asked. The question pressed on Robb's chest like a mailed fist. He stared at the map's empty north, at the space where Winterfell should be in his mind. If I bend the knee, he said slowly, I must do it in a way that keeps my men from tearing each other apart. Brynden's gaze did not soften. Some will leave, he said. Karstark most of all. He's already half gone. Robb's throat tightened. He had killed Lord Rickard Karstark's son's killers. He had tried to hold justice and discipline together, and it had snapped. Karstark's grief was a blade that cut everything. I can't keep all of them, Robb admitted, but I can keep enough. Brynden nodded once, grim. Then you choose your wards carefully, he said. You send sons south who are valuable enough to satisfy Tywin, but not so valuable you cripple your own houses. You send men you trust with them. You make it clear that any harm done to them will be answered. Tywin would laugh at threats, but threats still mattered to men who needed courage. Robb looked toward the door, toward the hall beyond where lords waited to be told what shape their lives would take. And Sansa, he said, voice rough, Tywin will not release her. Brynden's eyes were hard. He might, he said, if it serves him, if she is married, if she remains a claim he can hold, or if he thinks sending her north will pacify the land faster. Robb's gut clenched at the thought of Sansa sent north as a leash, bound to a Lannister husband. Her belly expected to carry a lion cub with Stark blood. Felt like desecration, but war had already desecrated everything. Robb straightened, forcing his shoulders back. Then we prepare, he said. We prepare to accept and to survive it. Brynden Tully's gaze held him a long moment. Then the older man nodded. Survival is not surrender, he said. Not if you use it. Robb looked down at the map again. The twins, the neck, the long road home. He set the dagger's point firmly on the twins, as if pinning his fear to stone. All right, he said quietly. We play the lion's game. Catelyn sought the Godswood when the castle stone felt too tight around her ribs. The old gods did not judge with human eyes. They did not smile like courtiers or sneer like lords. They simply watched, patient as roots, indifferent as winter. Rain fell in a fine, relentless veil. It clung to her hair, darkening it, and ran down the pale bark of the heart tree like tears too ancient to mean anything. Catelyn stood beneath it with hands clasped, trying to find steadiness in the sound of water. Footsteps approached, quick, uneven. A rider emerged from the trees, cloak soaked through, boots sinking into soft earth. He dropped to one knee before her with the awkward reverence of a man who did not know whether to kneel to a lady, a mother, or a queen. My lady, he panted. From the road. Catelyn's heart tightened. News, she said. The rider held out a crumpled report, half parchment, half rumor, written in a hurried hand, smudged by rain and travel. Catelyn took it carefully, as if it might burn. She read, and her breath caught. Spotted near Maidenpool. A tall woman in blue armor, a sword at her hip, traveling with a one-handed, fair-haired man bound in chains. Brave companions in the area. Reports of Sel's words. A fisherman's tale. A boy's boast. Not certainty but a thread. Brienne of Tarth and Jaime Lannister. Alive. Catelyn's knees went weak for an instant. She pressed her fingers into the bark of the heart tree to steady herself. She had sent them into the world like a prayer. To have the prayer answered with even this much life felt like the gods mocking her with possibility. Behind her came Brynden Tully, his cloak thrown over his shoulders, rain dripping from his hair. He took one look at her face and knew. "Jaime," he said, not a question. Catelyn swallowed. "Perhaps," she whispered. "There are reports. Brienne may be near Maidenpool. With him." Brynden's eyes narrowed. "Reports are smoke," he said. "But smoke means fire somewhere." Catelyn looked down at the parchment again, heart thudding. If Jaime lived, he might return to Tywin. If he returned, Tywin's hand would strengthen. Tywin would no longer need peace as badly. He would have his son and his vengeance both. And Robb would be negotiating with a lion that had regained its favorite tooth. Catelyn's throat tightened with guilt so sharp it felt like a blade. She had freed Jaime to save her daughters. Now that act could strip Robb of leverage at the very moment he needed it most. Brynden studied her. "Tell me," he said quietly. "Does Robb know?" Catelyn flinched. "Not yet," she admitted. Brynden's jaw tightened. "He must," he said. "If Tywin gets Jaime back, the terms will harden. Tywin will think himself free to break what little mercy he offers." Catelyn finished, voice raw. Rain pattered on leaves. The heart tree stared. Catelyn closed her eyes for a heartbeat. She saw Sansa again, alone in King's Landing. Saw Arya's face fading into uncertainty. She had made her choice as a mother. She would make it again if she had to. But the cost kept climbing, and she was not sure how much of herself she could pay before nothing remained. Brynden's voice softened, just a fraction. "You did what you thought you had to," he said. "That doesn't absolve me," Catelyn whispered. "No," Brynden agreed. "It doesn't." The rider shifted on his knee, uncomfortable in the silence. "My lady," he said hesitantly. There was more. Men on the road speak of Lannister gold moving north, of ravens flying hard from King's Landing. Tywin is busy. Catelyn opened her eyes. The rain blurred the Godswood, turning it into a gray wash. "Yes," she said quietly. "He will be." Brynden took the parchment from her hand and glanced at it, then handed it back. "We tell Robb," he said, "and we pray Brienne keeps the Kingslayer alive long enough to matter." Catelyn's fingers tightened on the crumpled report. "Alive," she murmured. The word had chased her through this war like a ghost. Brynden looked at her, eyes sharp. "If Robb chooses peace," he said, "Tywin will demand guarantees. Jaime returning gives Tywin confidence. Confidence makes him crueler." Catelyn's mouth tasted of ash. "Then we must make Robb faster," she said, voice low. "Before Tywin decides he no longer needs to bargain." Brynden nodded once. "Before the lion closes his jaws," he agreed. Catelyn looked up at the heart tree's carved face. The red leaves dripped steadily, relentless as time. She wanted to ask the gods why honor and love always led to suffering. But the old gods did not answer questions. They only watched and waited and endured. Catelyn turned from the tree, the rain cold on her skin, and began walking back toward Riverrun Stone. Toward her son, toward his crown of snow, toward the decision that would either save them or damn them in a different way. At the Twins, the river never stopped reminding men who held the bridge. It ran beneath both towers with a cold, constant insistence, as if it mocked those who thought stone could truly command water. The mist rose off it in thin sheets that curled around the battlements like ghosts unwilling to leave. Walder Frey sat in his high chair wrapped in furs, looking less like a lord and more like an old spider clinging to a web. His hands were thin and spotted, but his eyes were sharp. They missed little and they forgave nothing. The hall smelled of meat and damp stone. Candles guttered in their sconces, their light wavering whenever the doors opened and river air rushed in. Men clustered in knots, speaking in low voices. Freys bred like rabbits. The hall was full of them, every age and type, broad and blunt, sly and smiling, nervous and eager. Lame Lothar leaned close to Walder's ear, murmuring like a conspirator. Black Walder Rivers lounged nearby with a grin that did not reach his eyes. Rosalind Frey hovered in the shadows like a pale moth, hands folded tight, eyes downcast. She had learned early what it meant to be a daughter in a house that traded daughters like coin. A messenger arrived under guard, cloak wet with mist, boots muddy. He knelt before Walder Frey and held out a sealed letter. Walder's gaze lingered on the seal, lion and wax. Then he snorted. "The big lion writes," he said. "How kind of him. Perhaps he's lonely in that fancy city of his." Black Walder chuckled. "Or perhaps he's hungry," he said. "Hungry lions are dangerous." Walder Frey's lips curled. "Lions and wolves," he muttered. "All teeth, all pride. And where does that leave us, eh? Holding the bridge like fools while they tear at each other." Lame Lothar took the letter and broke the seal, scanning the words. His brows lifted slightly. "Lord Tywin offers gratitude," he said, voice cautious. "He speaks of your prudence, of your importance." Walder Frey cackled, dry and wheezing. "My importance," he rasped, "as if I didn't know it." Lame Lothar continued, eyes flicking over the lines. "He says Robb Stark may come to the twins to bend the knee," he said. "He says the crown will remember those who assist in securing peace." Black Walder's grin sharpened. "Peace," he said. "That's a fine word. Sounds expensive." Walder Frey's eyes narrowed. "Peace," he repeated, tasting it like sour wine. "Where was peace when the young wolf broke his oath to me? Where was peace when my daughter sat waiting with her dowry and her hopes and her pride, and he went and married some little Westerling?" Rosalind flinched in the shadows, as if the anger might strike her instead. Walder's hand clenched on the arm of his chair. "They think an old man forgets," he hissed. "They think because I am old I am stupid." Black Walder leaned forward, voice low. "If Robb Stark comes," he said, "he will be in our hall again, under our roof, drinking our wine." Walder's eyes glittered. He said slow. "Why? Under my roof." Lame Lothar's gaze remained careful. "Lord Tywin does not ask for blood," he said. "He asks for order, witness, submission." Walder Frey's laugh was a rasp. "Tywin Lannister never asks for blood in ink," he said. "He lets others spill it and calls it necessity." Black Walder's smile widened. "And if peace comes," he murmured, "who pays us? The wolves are leaving the Riverlands. The lions will want their bridge. Everyone will need us." Walder Frey's eyes drifted to Rosalind, pale and quiet. "They still owe us a wedding," he said, voice thick with spite. "Edmure Tully will marry my Rosalind. Robb Stark will sit at my table and watch it. He will see what it means to keep faith or to break it." Rosalind's hands tightened. She did not look up. She had no choice in any of it. She was a ribbon tied around a blade. Lame Lothar leaned closer. "And if Robb Stark refuses?" he asked. Walder's eyes gleamed. "Then we choose," he said. "If he refuses, the lions will devour him. If he kneels, the lions will put chains on him. Either way, the bridge remains ours." Black Walder's voice was a purr. "And we can make the bridge even more valuable," he said. "If we hold something the lions want." Walder Frey's mouth twisted. "Hostages," he said. "Wards. Fine words for the same thing." He stared down at Tywin's letter, then at the hall full of Freys. His sons, his grandsons, his endless bloodline. "Tywin offers reward," he said slowly. "But reward is only reward if it is certain." Lame Lothar's expression was unreadable. "Then you want certainty," he said. Walder Frey leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing to slits. I want the world to remember, he said. I want them to remember that no one crosses House Frey and walks away unmarked. The candles flickered. The river hissed beneath the bridge like laughter. Outside, the mist thickened, wrapping the twins in cold white secrecy. Inside, Walder Frey held Tywin's letter in his thin hands and waited against old grudges and new ambitions. Peace was coming down the road, and Walder Frey intended to profit from it one way or another. The throne room was colder than it looked. The Iron Throne drank warmth the way it drank blood, and even under banners and candlelight there was a chill that crept into bones. Sansa stood among the courtiers with her hands folded tight, her fingers numb, her breath careful. She had learned how to make herself small in crowds, how to become a piece of furniture that no one bothered to break. Joffrey sat high, draped in gold and arrogance. He looked pleased with himself, the way he always did when a room belonged to him. Beside him stood Margaery Tyrell in green, her posture perfect, her smile soft enough to appear gentle. She looked like a queen from a song. Sansa knew better than to trust songs, and yet her eyes were drawn to Margaery anyway, because beauty in this room felt like defiance. Tywin Lannister stood near the steps, hands clasped, face unreadable. Cersei sat close to her son, radiant with triumph. The Tyrells clustered like bright birds, Lord Mace swelling with pride, his sons and daughters glittering around him. The crowd murmured, eager as rats in a granary. Sansa felt her heart pound. She had been summoned, but no one had told her why. She knew enough to fear any summons. Joffrey rose, smiling broadly. "My lords," he announced, voice ringing off stone. "My ladies, the realm rejoices. The traitor Stannis is broken. The city is safe. And I." He spread his arms as if offering himself to their worship. "Will do what is best for my people." Sansa's stomach tightened. Best. Joffrey's best had always been pain. Joffrey continued, savoring every word. "I have decided," he said, "that I will take to wife the Lady Margaery Tyrell, daughter of Highgarden, whose beauty and virtue are known throughout the Seven Kingdoms." The room erupted in cheers. Lord Mace beamed. Margaery dipped her head, serene. Cersei smiled like a cat with cream. Sansa's breath caught. The words struck her with a force she could not name at first. Relief, sharp and dizzy, disbelief, and beneath it a deeper fear. If she was no longer to be Joffrey's bride, then what was she? Joffrey's gaze swept the crowd and found her. His smile sharpened. "As for Sansa Stark," he said loudly, and laughter bubbled in the crowd like wine poured too fast. "I have shown her great kindness. I spared her life. I allowed her to remain in the Red Keep under my protection, despite her brother's treason." Sansa's cheeks burned. She kept her eyes lowered. She had learned the cost of defiance. "But," Joffrey continued, voice bright with cruelty, "I cannot marry a traitor's daughter. It would be an insult to the realm and to my new queen." More laughter, more murmurs. Sansa's hands clenched until her nails bit skin. Tywin's voice cut in, calm and carrying. "His grace is wise," he said, "and the realm will be strengthened by this union." Sansa's throat tightened. Tywin did not speak without purpose. If he praised Joffrey's wisdom, it meant a plan had already been decided. Cersei leaned FO. Ward, eyes glittering. "Sansa Stark will still be cared for," she said sweetly. "Do not worry, child. We are not monsters." The lie was so blatant Sansa almost laughed. Almost. Tywin lifted a hand slightly, and the room quieted, obedient. "Lady Sansa Stark's future will be secured," he said, "in a manner that serves the realm." Sansa's blood turned to ice. She felt the cage closing. Joffrey waved a dismissive hand. "She can marry one of my lords," he said, bored already. "Or she can marry a dog, for all I care." The courtiers tittered. Margaery's eyes flicked toward Sansa, and for a heartbeat there was something there, pity perhaps, or calculation. Sansa could not tell anymore. Everything in this place wore masks. Tywin's gaze remained fixed on Sansa. It was not cruel like Joffrey's. It was colder than cruelty. It was possession. Sansa's mind flashed to the garden, to Olenna Tyrell's blunt warning. Marriages, beds, peace made with bodies. She felt faint. The Iron Throne loomed above them all, jagged and monstrous, forged from swords. A throne built from war, and now it would be secured with weddings like chains. As the cheers for Margaery swelled again, Sansa stood rigid and silent, her ears ringing. She thought of Winterfell. She thought of Robb. She thought of peace, the word that had dared to bloom in her mind like a fragile flower. Here, in this room, peace looked like a contract, and contracts in King's Landing were written with knives. The decision did not come in a single thunderclap. It came in layers like ice forming on a river, first at the edges, then creeping inward until movement became impossible. Robb called his lords to the courtyard because stone walls made lies easier. In the open air, with sleet-biting faces and horses steaming in the cold, men remembered they were mortal. They remembered winter did not care who wore a crown. Banners snapped above them. Direwolf, trout, giant, sunburst, flayed man. Men stood in clusters, their breath pale. Some watched Robb with devotion. Others watched him with suspicion, as if expecting betrayal. Robb stood with gray wind at his feet and Brynden Tully at his shoulder. Catelyn stood slightly behind, cloak pulled tight, her face pale and resolute. Roose Bolton lingered near the edge of the gathering like a shadow that had learned to wear a lord's cloak. Great John Umber loomed like a mountain, arms crossed, eyes fierce. Rickard Karstark stood stiff as a drawn sword. Robb lifted his voice, and the courtyard quieted. Tywin Lannister offers terms, Robb said. He did not call them peace because the word felt too clean. He offers pardon, titles, and an end to the Southern War. If I renounce my crown and bend the knee. A murmur rippled. Greatjon's jaw clenched. Karstark's eyes burned. Robb went on before anger could take the air. Winterfell is gone, he said, the words sharp as broken glass. The ironborn hold our coasts. The north bleeds while we fight here. Men shifted, uncomfortable. Some looked away as if looking might make it real. I was crowned in grief, Robb said, voice steady. Crowned because my father was murdered, because the realm spat on honor and called it justice. You crowned me because you wanted vengeance, because you wanted the north free. Greatjon's fist tightened. He rumbled. We did, and I have not forgotten why, Robb said. But I will not lead the north into winter with the whole south against us while our home burns behind us. A king who wins glory and loses his people is no king at all. Karstark stepped forward, voice trembling with fury. So you will kneel, he spat. You will crawl to the lions and call it wisdom. Robb met his gaze. I will do what keeps the north alive, he said. Karstark's face twisted. Alive in chains, he snarled. Alive while your sister is bred by Lannisters. Alive while the Riverlands are butchered. Alive while Ned Stark's ghost watches you break every oath you swore. Catelyn flinched, but she did not speak. Her silence was its own confession. She would accept chains if they kept her daughter breathing. Greatjon's voice thundered. If you kneel, Robb Stark, what were the boys' deaths for? He demanded. What were the victories for? Whispering Wood, Oxcross. What for? Robb's throat tightened. Faces flashed in his mind. Boys he had watched die, men he had buried, banners lowered in mud. For time, he said, and the simplicity of it hurt. For a chance, a foe. Are the North to still exist when winter truly comes? Karstark's eyes burned. Then bite his hand, he growled. Greatjon's grin was savage. He said, bite, tear, kill. Edmure swallowed, voice thin. And if we refuse, he whispered. What then? The question hung. No one shouted at it. No one could. Robb looked down at Tywin's letter again. The words were cold, but they were not lies. The Lannisters now held the south with reach strength. Winter approached. The north was wounded. The Riverlands were exhausted. A king could drown his realm in pride as easily as in blood. Robb lifted his head. "I will not answer him here," he said. "Not yet." Karstark's jaw tightened. "You mean you will consider?" he hissed. Robb met his gaze. "I mean I will think," he said, "which is more than most men do before they die." Karstark's stare held a heartbeat longer. Then he turned away, shoulders rigid with contempt. Roose Bolton's expression did not change, but his eyes followed the shift like a man watching a door open a fraction. Tywin's raven had brought ink. Now it had brought division. Robb raised a hand. "I will not go to the twins alone," he said. "I will not walk into Walder Frey's hall blind. We will send envoys. We will secure passage. Edmure Tully will marry Rosalind Frey, and the Freys will see their honor answered." Edmure's name in that sentence made several Riverlords stiffen, as if they could taste the bitterness. "And then," Robb continued, voice steady despite the ache in his chest, "I will renounce the crown in the sight of witnesses. I will take the title Tywin offers, Warden of the North, not as a gift but as a tool. I will take our host home, and I will drive the ironborn from our land." Karstark's laugh was harsh, broken. "You cannot drive out ironborn with a collar on your neck," he sneered. Robb's eyes hardened. "Watch me," he said. Karstark's gaze held his for a heartbeat longer. Then the older lord turned away, spitting into the sleet. "I will not kneel," he said, voice thick with contempt. "I will not follow a king who chooses chains. My men will return to Carhold. Let the lions have your peace." A shock ran through the crowd. Some men looked as if they might follow. Others looked frightened, as if the unity of the North might shatter right here in the sleet. Robb did not chase him. It would have been useless. Grief and pride made men deaf. "Go then," Robb said, voice low but carrying. "But know this. If you break the king's peace once it is made, Tywin will answer with fire, and your people will burn with you." Karstark paused, shoulders rigid. He did not look back. He walked away, his men falling in behind him, boots crunching on frost. Great John watched them go, rage and sorrow twisting his face. Then he looked back at Robb. "I don't like it," he growled. "I don't like it one bloody bit." Robb nodded once. "Neither do I," he said. Greatjon's jaw worked. Then, with a sound like a man swallowing glass, he umped a fist against his chest. "But you're my king," he said, voice rough. "Crown or no crown. If you say we go north, we go." A low murmur of agreement followed, reluctant, grim, but real. "Enough." Roose Bolton watched with pale calm, saying nothing, his silence a blade hidden in cloth. Catelyn stepped closer to Robb, her hand brushing his arm, light as a prayer. Her eyes were bright with fear and fierce with love. Robb looked over the gathered men, his host, his burden. The sleet stung his face. Grey Wind's presence at his feet was steady, solid, a reminder of pack and home. "All right," Robb said, voice firm. "We ride for the twins." As the men began to move, packing, shouting orders, harnessing horses, Robb felt the invisible weight of the crown shift inside him. He did not feel lighter. He felt sharper. He had chosen a path that would stain him in songs, perhaps. But songs did not keep children warm. If peace was a cage, then he would learn its locks. And when the time came, he would break it. Quietly, carefully, with winter at his back and the North still breathing.